Working all the John Fredericks radio apps. We are live, day 3, Iowa bus tour. We're in Sioux City, Iowa, right on the border of Nebraska. Went to dinner last night there. Chris McGowan took me there. Then he said, well, let's go over this other bridge. That takes us to South Dakota. We're like, what? So we went there, drove around just to say we were in South Dakota. Then he told me to move there, not North Dakota. Says South Dakota has lower taxes, loves Kristi Noem. He's running for Congress. We're in District 4. This is the heartbeat of the Iowa conservative movement. This is the heartbeat of MAGA. District 4. You win District 4, you go to Congress, you're going to vote with President Trump. But this is the other thing. You win District 4 in the straw poll, in the Iowa caucuses coming up, and you're in really good shape because that's where the Republicans are, in District 4, right here. In where are we, Chris? What area?
We are in Sioux City, Iowa, in the Siouxland tri-state area of Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota.
Tri-state area is like the DMV, but these are real people here, not the people like I deal with in Washington, D.C. By the way, Washington, D.C., sorry, Chris, I love Sioux City, but the most beautiful, safest city in the history of America, right here in Washington, D.C., or where I'm from. Anyway, now we've got a big contingent here on our bus tour, day 3 in Sioux City. We've got Chris McGowan. He's a candidate for Congress District 4. This is the seat currently held by Randy Feenstra, who is a candidate for governor. Of the seats open, and McGowan has the endorsement of President Trump. He needs 35% on the in the primary on June 2nd in order to avoid a crazy convention. So hopefully he can get that. Colonel Brian Miller is with us, retired. Of Air Force. We'll get into that. 2016 Trump co-chair here in Iowa. Chris Hupke, my brethren on the Epstein files. Thank you. And I'm getting rid of the filibuster. He's my guy. President Trump's and Governor Noem's 2016. He was 2016 chairman of District 4 for Trump, and he's the Iowa 4 director, and he's with the McGowan campaign. Don Cass, county supervisor, farmer, Trump Electoral College elector, is all with us. So we're all going to get going. We're going to get Morgan Griffith in here in D.C., give us an update of what's going on. And let me just say, this segment brought to you by the National Association Against iGaming. This thing is so ridiculous. iGaming effectively, here's what it does. It places a casino in every pocket of every Virginian, if you're in Virginia, making continuous spending easy, isolated, and impossible for families to, or support systems to detect. That's how you become an addict. You can sit there in the 7-Eleven and you can bet $50 on your phone while you're waiting at the McDonald's line while you're waiting for your coffee. This is insane. That's why I'm so against it. I'm pro-gambling against this, 100%. iGaming diverts funding from established public programs like the lottery, which impacts education. Research shows online casino gambling, which is insane, is associated with higher addiction rates, faster losses leading to increased household debt, financial instability for families, and there's no way to regulate it. I am pro-casino, I am pro-sports betting, I'm pro-DraftKings, FanDuel apps. I've been fighting for those forever. This thing is a scourge on America. 8 states have adopted it. We got to stop it in Virginia. This message has been paid for by the National Association Against iGaming. Call your senator in Virginia. Say no on iGaming. 804-698-7400. 804-698-7400. Get off the couch. Action, action, action. Call your state senator and say no to iGaming. 804-698-7400. Okay, joining us now, Congressman, 9th District, Virginia, Morgan Griffith by phone. Morgan, I've got your potential colleague here with me, Chris McGowan, Iowa 4, the likely winner of the nomination. This is a Republican district, so you could very well be serving with Chris in Congress. Morgan, thanks for being with us.
It's great to be with you all, and I look forward to serving with the new gentleman from Iowa.
Chris McGowan is a great guy. Wants to join the Freedom Caucus, right? Okay, maybe.
Freedom Caucus, those are our kind of people right here.
All right, there you go.
Good morning, Congressman. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right,
Good to be with you.
Congressman, you're by phone. Tell us what happened yesterday. There was a revolt, so to speak, kind of a rebel revolt with Republicans on the tariffs. Can you outline what happened for us, sir?
Well, a number of Republicans didn't like the tariffs from the get-go, and they have been going along with us moving the deadline for a demand motion in the House. They have a right to have a vote, but we were able in the Rules Committee to turn that off, and if the House majority voted to turn off the clock, you in essence said, okay, we're not going to deal with that until, later. And it's interesting because the president sent word to the Rules Committee, on which I sit, that he wanted us to go to July, because by then there'll be a court opinion, which I thought was reasonable. So I voted for it in Rules. I voted for it on the floor. But a number of members felt like, look, we've been putting this thing off forever, and we just can't keep putting it off, and we want to have a vote. They want to stop these tariffs on Canada, and they are entitled to a vote. That said, I'm not sure what the strategy was at the White House. I don't know who all was involved, because if they knew, because I know that the Speaker had communicated there was a potential that we couldn't get this through. They had, people come and talk. The Speaker had people come and talk with us in the Rules Committee, because there was a little bit of the ill ease at not letting the House have a vote, and I didn't see. Now maybe it was happening, but I didn't see a whole lot of activity from the Vice President or the President or the Secretary of State calling up or coming to the conference and talking to members about how just give us till July, give us this one more time extension, and then whatever happens, happens. And, we don't have very many votes. We have a member out sick. We have people who've left. We've got basically a 2-seat majority right now, and we lost, I don't remember how many, but 3 or 4. You can only lose 2. You can only lose 1 without probably getting into a tie, and then you have to hope there are enough Democrats missing. Yesterday, there weren't enough Democrats missing, and we didn't have the votes, so the rule failed. So we went back into rules late last night and did a new rule without the extension of the stopping of the clock on the tariff vote. So sometime, I don't know exactly when it ripens, but I think it's before we leave town this week. A vote on the tariffs will be ripe, and we'll probably have to take it up on the floor. And it's probably, remember, the Senate already did this, and there will probably be a few Republicans that vote for it, and the tariffs will be lifted on Canada.
So you guys then have the power in the Congress, not you personally, but you have the power. The Congress has the power with a couple of Republican defections align with the Democrats and vote to get rid of tariffs and take that out of the hands of the executive branch. Is that our understanding?
That is correct.
All right, let's bring Chris McGowan in. He's a candidate for Congress. He's the leading candidate here endorsed by President Trump. So, Chris, we're going to put you on the spot. You're in Iowa 4. You're with Congressman Griffith. You're in Congress right now. How would you have voted on that rule?
Well, good morning, Congressman, and thank you so much for joining us in Sioux City, Iowa. We're delighted to connect with you. Tariffs are very complicated, and I'm very pleased to be joined this morning by an elected official, a county supervisor who is deeply involved in agriculture by the name of Don Cass. Don was a 2016 presidential elector in the Electoral College for President Trump, and brings a lot of expertise to ag and tariffs. We, of course, want to support the president, give him every opportunity to introduce free and fair trade agreements. We've always had free trade in the United States, and I think President Trump is working very hard to make free trade free and fair trade and level that playing field. And our farmers are feeling that primarily in soybeans right now. And so we're pretty focused on supporting the president, giving him a chance. But yes, people are getting concerned, and the closer we get to the midterm elections, I think the more anxious some of our farmers get. But Don, I think you have more expertise on the impact in agriculture than I do.
Well, yes, thanks, Chris. And you're absolutely right. It is a complicated issue. The overall goal for all of us should be zero tariffs, because it is a tax. However, the tariffs are only part of the problem as pertains to markets for farmers, especially soybeans. With soybeans, President Trump made a deal with China to buy more of our beans. The problem is, the Chinese feed a lot of that soybean meal to hogs, the problem has become in China, the hog population has dropped because of disease, severely dropped, that they don't need the soybean meal, and we can't force them to buy what they don't need. That's just one element into this. So, as you said, it's a very, very complicated problem, and it's not something that President Trump can wave a magic wand and solve.
So, Chris, if you were there, would you have voted to wait until July, or would you have voted with the rebels?
Well, I think that Congressman Griffith had it just right. He said, listen, I think that's reasonable to give it a chance to see. He said that there'd be a court opinion by then. So I'm willing to give the president and this administration the opportunity to get to July. But we have to be communicating with our farmers and our agriculturalists and our value-added ag companies and say, let's give this a chance to work. Give the president and his administration the opportunity to level the playing field. But again, we do understand that people are becoming anxious, and tariffs are a tax. We can be certain that President Trump's not interested in an additional tax. He's interested in leveling the playing field. And if people are going to trade with the United States of America, and that is a privilege, then they ought to open their markets to the United States and our farmers and our other manufacturers and producers.
Morgan, what are your farmers saying in Southwest Virginia about this?
Well, for them, this is not as big an issue because our biggest agricultural product, now I'm not saying it doesn't affect some of them, but our biggest agricultural products are produce and then beef cattle. I have the largest number of cattle for beef east of the Mississippi, according to the National Cattlemen's Association, in the 9th District of Virginia. And so they're affected by more issues related to, Brazil, Argentina, and some other countries than they are Canada. But our wood products people have some concern, although Chile and some other countries put more pressure on them than do the Canadians for the wood we have, because we have mostly the hardwoods. Mm-hmm. But they're, they are concerned about tariffs generally and want to make sure that they're not accidentally hurting them in the process. That said, I felt like, if we didn't make a decision until July, that was fine.
What are we going to do with funding DHS? That runs out on Friday. It affects the Coast Guard. It affects TSA. It affects a lot more than just the ice situation going on with the color revolution in Minnesota. Give us an update on that.
Well, we keep hearing that the Senate's going to get something moved, but it's Wednesday, and I haven't seen it yet. So I don't know whether we're going into overtime. I would hope they would get another couple of weeks of extension instead of having another shutdown. But, for whatever reason, the Democrats seem to like shutdowns. I mean, they orchestrated the longest shutdown ever in September, October,
Right.
October, November of last year. So I don't know what Thun's going to be able to do to pull that rabbit out of the hat, but stay tuned because we may be going into overtime.
So if they pass something short term for another 2 weeks to give them some negotiating breathing room, does that then have to go back to the House?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So we have to stay and wait on them.
So you guys might have to come back there then. That's kind of the deal.
I mean, the hope would be is that if they can get something off the floor, even Thursday evening,
right?
We might have to stay later than originally planned. But if they get something off the floor Thursday evening, we could vote on it either later Thursday or Friday morning. Right now, we're scheduled to leave on Thursday morning, but we got to wait and see what the Senate's doing. And look, that's part of our job. So if we have to wait an extra day, that's not a big deal. If they don't get something done, though, and we have no idea what they're doing, do we go home and then come back on 24 hours notice? I don't know. This is we'll have to see where we go, but right now it's very uncertain. And, it's interesting. The Senate has a larger majority than the House, but because of the filibuster rule, which you and I have talked about before and which you don't like and I don't like, he can't run the operation even with a majority that's percentage-wise is substantially bigger than the House, because you have to get a supermajority to pass anything in the Senate, which is just not good from a republic based on democratic principles viewpoint. It's bad governance.
Let's go to Chris McGowan, Republican candidate for Congress District 4, Iowa, that'll be first settled by a June 2nd primary. He gets over 35%. He's a nominee. If he's a nominee, he's going to Congress. So, Chris, we talked last night, and we didn't agree on the filibuster. You were telling me that you would prefer that that tradition holds. Morgan and I are on the same page. We want to get rid of it because we think the Democrats will get rid of it in the first hour and a half they're in there. But here you have this dilemma where they're trying to defund ICE. They don't want to fund the DHS. It affects Coast Guard and everything. If you got rid of the filibuster rule, they have the votes in the Senate. They got 50 votes, and that's the end of it. Everybody goes home and wins. Why keep this stupid rule?
So, John, thanks. And again, welcome to Sioux City, Iowa. We're delighted to have you. And Congressman Morgan Griffith, pleasure. I look forward to meeting you. My concerns about eliminating the filibuster go back to Senator Harry Reid, who I think the Democrats today would reject his decision to invoke the nuclear option on voting without a supermajority on judges at the federal district court and appellate court level. Of course, when the Democrats decided to do that, when they invoked the nuclear option, the Republicans, led by Iowa's own Senator Charles Grassley, who's chaired the Judiciary Committee a number of times, Senator Grassley said the Republicans are going to invoke the nuclear option on justices for the United States Supreme Court. And they did just that. And that delivered for the Republicans over the Democrats' objections, Justice Gorsuch, Justice Kavanaugh, and Justice Amy Coney Barrett. And so my caution is that we have to be very, very careful about this is essentially the new nuclear option, invoking the end of the filibuster, no longer a 60-vote supermajority in the Senate to get things done. You make a very compelling argument, John, as does Congressman Griffith. This is not an easy decision. My concern is we better understand the long-term consequences before we do so, because Harry Reid clearly did not, and there were huge ramifications for the Democrats that we all agree were better for the country. I say let's proceed with caution. I'm not a hard no. Let's make sure that we understand all the ramifications of pulling this trigger before we do so.
You know, I've been married 30-something years. Morgan knows this. See, when I don't get a hard no from Ann, it's a yes. I know I can get to a yes. Hard no, I fold my tent, and so do the kids. I was just talking about this to my younger son the other day. When mom's a hard no, you just fold your tent. You just abandon it because it's just done. But anything but a hard no, you know you'll eventually get there. So I like that.
Well, and again, I'm doing this from a point and a position and a perspective that says, let's make sure that we protect this Democratic Republic long term, and that the short term concern that we have about making sure that we can push our legislation through will exist for the Democrats as well. Harry Reid learned a very hard lesson. I guarantee you there's not a Democrat on Capitol Hill right now that would support what Harry Reid did 10 or 15 years ago when he invoked the nuclear option on federal district and federal appellate court judges. And I bet Morgan would agree with me on that.
That's a great argument, except the fact that if the Democrats get there, they're going to get rid of it in an hour and a half. So,
okay, so that's your contention, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. All I'm saying is we better proceed with caution and understand the long-term ramifications. Morgan, your thoughts?
So it would take too long and we don't have enough time, but John's heard this, part of this before, but I'd be glad to sit down with you and go over the history, because for roughly 200 years, we used what they're now calling the standing or talking filibuster. That was the rule. And the longest time that there was a filibuster holding up a bill under the old rule was a little over 24 hours. And now what happens is any bill that passes out of the House, I mean, a majority of the bills that pass out of the House never even get a debate on the floor of the Senate, because they have this secret policy where you can hide behind the curtain. You go in, and one senator says, I want to put a hold on the bill. And as long as you have two senators, because each hold is only good for 30 days, but Senator A can do it for 30 days, and Senator B does it for 38 days, and then it comes back to Senator A. And we never get a vote on legislation. And part of the process in a democratic republic is that your elected officials have to actually take a stand and vote on these issues. And on a huge number of bills, the Senate never even votes because somebody puts a hold on it, and they never have to take up some of the tough issues. And while they will make decisions, if the Democrats are in control at some point, they will make decisions I don't like and you don't like, then they have to go face the voters. And I will tell you that some of those folks would either change their votes knowing they would have to go face the voters, or they would vote for legislation that we would like. And if they don't, then we go to the polls, and they have to defend that position at the polls. And if they win, I may not like it, but that's what the Democratic Republic is all about, as opposed to hiding from some of the tough issues because somebody's willing to put a hold on it and you can't get the 60 votes.
So, Congressman, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I would simply say this, and I bet that you, John, and I agree. When Senator Harry Reid invoked the nuclear option, he did not fully comprehend and understand the unintended consequences. And the result of that was 3 United States Supreme Court justices who were appointed, nominated to the bench by President Trump, and then ultimately confirmed with less than 60 votes. So I think we can agree that Harry Reid didn't understand the long-term unintended consequences of his actions. I want to make sure that I fully and firmly understand any potential fallout before I say yay to this, but I sure appreciate the opportunity to converse with you about it.
Well, thank you, former Senator Harry Reid in Nevada, former boxer, for saving the Republicans. We know it today by giving us these 3 conservative justices. Without them, God knows where we'd be. All right, guys, hang out for another minute. I want to get to one phone call. Tim in Mulberry, Georgia, line 2. You're on with Congressman Griffith and hopefully incoming Congressman for reinforcements, Chris McGowan. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call, John. So you guys can look this up. The Inflation Reduction Act was a 50-50 tie in the Senate, and Kamala Harris put it over the top with the 51st vote, 51-50. So the Democrats will do this, like John said, within the first hour and a half. They will enact the same thing that the Republicans need to do to get this SAVE Act through. So what do you guys think of that?
Morgan? Thank you, Tim.
I'm in agreement, and I think we need to do, I call it the historical filibuster. They're calling it now the standing or talking filibuster, where you can talk as long as you want to, but you've got to be on the floor talking. And instead of hiding in your office or having a fancy steak dinner somewhere, you got to be on the floor. And Democrats can raise all the objections they want to in that process, but it is limited to a couple of days, worst case scenario, and we need to have voter ID. People need to be U.S. citizens to vote in our federal elections, and you need to present an ID. I mean, the Democrats are raising Cain about this, and again, we don't have enough time, but I gave a whole litany yesterday in the House Admin Committee because they want to say it's Jim Crow 2.0. I was a child during Jim Crow in the South, and this is not presenting an ID so that we don't have dead people voting or people claiming to be Morgan Griffith when they're not Morgan Griffith going in to vote. I think is just common sense. Most Americans support that, but the Democrats in Congress are opposed to it, and we need to push that through. And we can't let the minority in the Senate control what we're doing on issues of this importance.
Chris?
100% agree with Congressman Morgan Griffith on this point. We have to make sure that we have election integrity. I don't know anybody on this side of our aisle that disagrees with that. I support that, and I will also say that if the only way that we can ensure free and fair elections going forward, that we can protect the integrity of our voting process is by ending the filibuster, then I think that's a price we have to pay.
All right, final caller, Morgan, and I know I'm overextending your time. You're always so gracious with us. So people love to talk to you, and now they get to talk to McGowan too. So we're going to go to one more caller, and I promise I'll let you go. Killer Carl, Allentown, Pennsylvania. Don't forget to tune in to the Killer Carl Show in the John Fredericks Media Network, 8 to 9 a.m. every Saturday, right before Godzilla wins. And we won't talk about that right now, other than I was 9-2 against the spread in the playoffs. I put that up against anybody in Vegas. I kicked all their asses. Carl, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to remind the senators, with the filibuster, the Democrats already tried to eliminate it. There were only 2 senators on the Democratic side that voted against it, and they're gone. They're gone. They're out. Joe Manchin was one of them, and I forget the other person, but they're gone. So as soon as the Democrats get power, and this is what our Republican Party has to realize, we're not dealing with people that you can negotiate with on the Democratic Party. They're gone. They're gone. We're dealing with hostile people that want to fundamentally change this country for the worst. So our Republican senators need to just grow a set here, nuke the filibuster, let's get the Trump agenda through, let's get the SAVE Act through, let's take our country back, and then we can maybe discuss having a chivalry discussion with these Democrats. But as of right now, they don't want to have it, because as soon as they take control, it's gloves off, baby. And they're nuking the filibuster, and they're ramming through every radical policy they can. Just look at Virginia. Look at Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I can say.
That's your
Thanks,
best
John.
example,
Great
Morgan.
show. Great debate. Have a great day, guys. Stay safe. God
Virginia,
bless.
all right, Morgan, I know you got to go, but I got to ask you this. Where are we now in the Epstein files? What do you think?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the more and more is coming out, and Thomas Massey is apparently he's hinted he's hoping that they'll redact enough or unredact enough stuff. But he's hinted that there's some European leader who's got an issue, and we'll just have to see, and some other prominent people. But it comes out. People get to take a look at it, and then they get to ask questions. I didn't get to see the testimony, but I heard Lutnick did pretty good, because he said we were on a cruise, and my family stopped. He invited us to dinner. My whole family went to dinner. Nothing bad happened, and we got we were on the island, but we had dinner and we left. But so some of it you can explain, some of it you can't, and the people who are involved in that need to do the explaining. So that's where we go.
So why would you go to dinner? You're on a cruise. Why would you go
it's
to dinner?
still stuff
why
coming out because it was voluminous.
But why would you go to dinner with a convicted sex trafficker of young children? Like, why would you accept that dinner, other than the fact that you've got money and he's got money and you're both tied to Wall Street and you're part of the elites? That's my question. Like, why would you? Like,
That's
if Anna and I are on that cruise, we don't have any money, so we wouldn't have gotten invited. But if we did, I would have said, well, wait a minute, this guy got convicted of sex trafficking children. The hell am I going to have supper with him for at some island? You got to be out of your mind. When
was his first conviction? I don't remember what the date was on that first conviction.
Sometime in Florida. Right?
When?
I just don't remember what year it was.
Well, it was after Lutnick had dinner with him, or lunch, or whatever he did.
It was before he had dinner or after?
No, the conviction.
That's the
The
question.
conviction was before he accepted the dinner with his family.
No. Well,
So it's all about money.
It's all
about the elites, money, Wall Street. Working people get screwed. It's all the same thing. Cuts right to the heart. Cuts right to the heart of MAGA. I've done a 180 on this. This thing is not a hoax. I mean, people have to be held accountable. I'll give you the final word, McGowan, and then we got to go.
Yeah, John, you and I both talked about our college-age children, and this is a big issue for them. They want people held accountable. They want to know that we can trust our federal government. They want to know it's transparent. They want to know that if people violated law and abused children, that they will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law and ultimately held accountable.
Morgan Griffith, I want to thank you for your time today. As always good to talk to you, Morgan. And I'll just tell you this story. You can ask your kids this, but we're at dinner last night talking about this. Chris Saxman, who you know, has got 4 children, 3, I think, 2 millennials and 2 Zoomers. I've got 3, 2 millennials and 1 Zoomer. We both sent one group text to our respective offspring. One line. Hey, what do you think about the Epstein files and what just came out? Saxman had 100 texts back. I had to go to bed. They just keep going on. I had to turn my phone off at 9 o'clock because I had 30 texts from my kids on that chain. And all of them pissed off that these Epstein files were not released. 2 of my children voted for Trump. All 4 of Saxman's voted for Trump. So 7 of the 8 are mad. And this thing is not going away. And Zoomers are pissed because they see again the elites get treated one way and we get treated a separate way. And that really cuts to the soul of MAGA. Morgan, what do you think?
Got to do this to you, John. So what you're saying is Thomas Massey was right.
Yes.
Okay? You're a good man.
Yes, he was right. And I did a 180 on it because I listened. And Massey was right to get this out. And for all the abuse he took from me, I'm sorry. Stay there right on the air. Same thing with Green, although I think Marjorie was more about the victims. Massey was more about stop protecting elites, which is the genesis of the MAGA movement spawning out of the 2008 bailout, where the bankers that caused all this pain got golden parachutes and off to an island and went on sales meetings to Carmel, and many of us went homeless. That cuts to the core, and it's right back there. It's come full circle with the Epstein files. So, good question, Morgan. Massey was right.
Yep.
I hate to say it. It's painful.
Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Morgan Griffith. We're going to be right back here on the John Fredericks Media Network. We're in Iowa, in Sioux City. Very rapid conversation. We've got, oh my God, we got Chris McGowan, Colonel Brian Miller, Chris Hupke, my kindred spirit. I love this guy. Don Katz, County Supervisor, Trump Electoral College Elector. All coming up next. Stay with us.